Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Today in Titletown Packers podcast. After a glorious Week 1 victory, football is back, and I'm joined by my co-host Mason. How are you doing, Mace?
Great, man. Packers looked absolutely phenomenal on Sunday, and I'm just excited to talk about the game with you.
Yeah, it was a great one, and we've got a lot to talk about, and we're going to get right into it here. Mason, let's go over some of the injuries that happened in that last game just to get those out of the way. Those are never a fun discussion, but you want to tell us the first injury?
Yeah, probably the biggest one. Lane Taylor, as you guys saw if you watched the game, obviously went out right around the second quarter, and unfortunately, he did tear his ACL, and he is going to miss the remainder of the season. So the Packers are going to be without one of their starting offensive linemen. So definitely look for a possible free agent acquisition at offensive lineman, but if not, I think the Packers are definitely suitable to, you know, fill that spot because Billy Turner should be back hopefully next week, and he can definitely play that right guard spot or right tackle spot that Lane Taylor was playing. And obviously, another guy that got hurt last week as well, Lucas Patrick, with a shoulder injury, is said to be good to play next week. So I feel like the Packers are okay on that offensive line. But on the defensive side, Bron, you want to touch on Kenny Clark's injury?
Yeah, Kenny Clark, after playing just 15 snaps actually in the first half, went down with a groin injury. He never returned, and that's a huge loss. Obviously, we paid him a lot of money this offseason and extended him. Just that shows you how valuable he is to our defense. He's really the only stud in the middle of that defense that we've got, and he underwent some tests earlier this week, and we'll see what the results of that are, but. Matt LaFleur declined to comment on the injury, so we're not sure of the timetable. Hopefully, it's not a long injury. Obviously, we want him back as soon as possible, healthy. But the groin injuries are nagging injuries, so that's going to be definitely tough. We're going to need to find some way to fill the hole in that defense if he's not able to go. So that's a big one for sure.
No, 100% a huge blow. Obviously, we do not have much depth at the defensive tackle position, you know, behind Kenny Clark. It's going to be guys like maybe Dean Lowry, Montravius Adams, Tyler Lancaster. Somebody has to step up and move to the middle there. Because, we saw last week after Kenny Clark went out, I mean, the Vikings had some pretty good rushes, a lot of 8+ yard rushes after Kenny went out, both Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison. So we're gonna have to do something about that. I don't know if it is a long period, if Kenny is like set to miss a good chunk of time. Brian, what are your thoughts on possibly signing a free agent defensive tackle like maybe Snacks Harrison?
Yeah, that's really the only guy that's out there that could kind of fill the void for now, and then possibly when Kenny Clark could come back, that would make a great duo in the middle to stop the run and also rush the passer. That's a guy that a lot of Packers fans have called upon to be a guy that they bring in. But his situation's kind of uncertain because he's talked about that he hasn't been ready to play. The Packers reportedly made him an offer. He confirmed that in a series of tweets the other day. But I'm not sure where he stands on playing in Green Bay. And obviously, this changes things. If Kenny Clark is not able to go for a number of weeks, this changes things for sure. And they might call him again and give him an offer he can't refuse, um, especially with the way that our defensive line is being so thin behind Kenny Clark and Dean Lowry and Tyler Lancaster, who had a good game. They are thin behind those guys. Montravius Adams has been hurt, but he's back and he did not play great this last season, and they're not really expecting much from him anymore because he's been in the defense for 3 years and hasn't put it together. Kingsley Kiki's a guy they are expecting a lot from, and he played a good number of snaps with Kenny Clark out and even with Kenny Clark in the game. So, they have some guys there. Uh, they brought a guy into the practice squad named Daylon Mack. He was a good college player, a 5-star high school recruit. They like him athletically and physically. He was a 5th-round pick. Has bounced around the league a little bit since last year, but I mean, they do have to bring somebody in if Kenny Clark's going to be out for a while. And then on the same thing on the offensive line, with Lane Taylor gone, that's a guy that was going to start for us. So, there's a question about maybe bringing a guy in there. They did work out Justin Britt, former center for the Seahawks. They had worked him out last week before the game on Sunday. No deal there yet, but with Lane Taylor hurt, that could be a guy they bring on to play guard. Um, you know, and then also with Lucas Patrick a bit uncertain with his shoulder injury. I know the report said he could play this week, but they might hold him out just to be sure. But John Runyon's the other guy that came in and played great on Sunday, but they will need more depth there, and they're running pretty thin right now. So there's going to be moves to be made there as well.
Yeah, despite losing Lane Taylor and Lucas Patrick during the game and having Billy Turner out that whole game, the Packers still let up 0 sacks to that Minnesota front line that includes the newly acquired Yannick Ngakoue that they just got from Jacksonville. Very good pass rusher. David Bakhtiari absolutely handled him on that left side. He had 0 tackles the whole game and only 1 QB hit. No sacks, no pressures, no nothing. Just a great showing, and just kind of shows the depth of the Packers offensive line. That like you were just saying, John Runyon had to get thrown in there. It was his first ever game. He probably had no idea he was going to even step foot on the field. He was our 8th offensive lineman going into that game, and he's playing, with the ones and holding his own. It's just a good showing, and it kind of goes to show maybe we don't need to address anything via free agency and just roll with what we got right now.
Yeah, I mean that was impressive from the young guy, John Runyon. He has a father who played great in the league, and he was the Packers' first pick in the draft of the in terms of the O linemen, the 3 guys they brought in. He was their first pick there, and he's a guy that they really liked, and he proved himself on Sunday by playing a limited number of snaps, but filling in after really nobody expected him to come in the game. It took 3 guys being out on the O line for him to come in and have a really good showing. So that's definitely encouraging to know that we've got some really nice depth there. Uh, but the injuries do have an impact on that, and that will determine whether we bring a guy in or not. But it obviously, like I said, it's nice to have a guy even at the bottom of the depth chart that's going to come in and play well for you.
100%. And, thanks to that offensive line, Aaron Rodgers had a fantastic game, one of the best we've seen in a long time. Me and you before this podcast were talking about it, kind of reminded us of him versus the Raiders last year when he threw for 5 and ran for 1. But honestly, he looked super clean, didn't really miss any throws, only 12 incompletions out of his 44 attempts. And, looking back at it, a lot of them were just throwaways or, so.
Yeah, I was just gonna say a lot of those were the throwaways, and I thought his worst throw, it was a short throw, and he threw it a little low. I think it was to Alan Lazard. It was like a I think it was about an 8 yard pass, and he just threw the ball low. Alan Lazard still caught the ball, and uh, and that was I thought his worst throw of the day, and that's saying something because I mean he just could not miss. He was hitting throws from 40 yards. He had that huge bomb to MVS. He had Devontae and him were locked in all game long. They had 5+ passes. I think it was 5. They had 5 passes over 20 yards against the Vikings, against that Mike Zimmer defense. We scored 43 points, which was the most total points of the whole weekend of NFL football, and the most that Mike Zimmer has ever allowed as the coach of the Vikings. So, I mean, that was a special game for the Packers and Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. And then the guys behind him, MVS and Lazard, both had pretty nice games as well. We'll get into more of the details of those guys and their performance, but overall, Rodgers had a great game, and the Packers offense was firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, man, I haven't seen the Packers offense roll like that it's been a while. We just look so smooth. I felt like in the first half we were using that reverse slash like little flick pass with the motion receiver, whether it was Tyler Irving or Alan Lazard. That was working. That was getting 10+ yards a carry until they finally stopped it. And then we kind of resorted to the out routes with Devontae and Alan Lazard. That was working like butter. I mean, Devontae, I feel like he had 100 yards alone on just out routes. He was just tearing up those young corners, and that freed up MVS, who I respect Aaron Rodgers 100%. MVS did not have the best game of his career. Couple drops, especially that one on 3rd down across the middle, just hit him right in the middle of the hands. He dropped it, but I respect Aaron Rodgers for keep going at him because later in the game he had that free play catch that I think brought us within the 5, and then right before the second half, he hit him on that beautiful touchdown, beautiful catch by MVS as well. So just shows the trust Aaron Rodgers is having in these wide receivers, and it's kind of putting that social media, everybody going after us for not drafting a receiver. It kind of shows like, hey, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is trusting the guys we already have. So does it really matter? And we got to see our second round pick AJ Dillon have two really nice carries, two rushes, 14 yards. Both went for over 6 yards. So I mean, I'm starting to like what we did in the draft, and I'm starting to realize I think we did the right thing.
Well, yeah, in terms of I mean, the first round quarterback is a debatable part of
Yeah.
that, but I mean, I Dylan he looked great. I mean, he had two rushes, one for 8 yards, one for 6 yards against that stout Vikings interior. And then DeGuara, he was swimming a little bit out there in terms of kind of just his connection with Rodgers overall, but he had that one nice catch.
He had a
I
great
remember
block too.
early in the game. What'd you say?
He had a great block too. He knocked down two
Oh
defenders
yeah,
and
the
got him off
block.
guard.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
reverse.
that 19, I think it was 19-yard or 24-yard Alan Lazard run. That was he had a big block on that one, and he's going to have a huge impact in the blocking game. And the reason maybe he's struggling a little bit in some areas is because they're asking him to do a lot early on. He's just a rookie. He's going to be lining up like a wide receiver. He's going to be blocking like a tight end in line. He's going to be playing in the slot. He's going to be running the football. They're going to do a lot of different things with him. So I mean, he's got a lot of responsibility, and the one pass I was kind of mentioning earlier was it was early in the game, and it looked like he was kind of running looking for the ball as opposed to kind of finishing his route and then kind of turning around looking for the ball at that point. He was kind of staring at Rodgers down, trying to wait for the ball, and that kind of impacted the route, and Rodgers was looking for him to kind of be farther down the field, and he was just kind of shortened up a little bit and twisting his legs as he was running. So that's something he's going to have to clean up. Rodgers and him will look at that. But I thought he had a nice performance as well. So Dylan and DeGuara both look pretty good in their debut. A lot of the rookies, like we just talked about, John Runyon had a nice game as well. So the rookie class kind of showing that it was a good class so far, and they're going to be contributing right away.
Another guy I want to touch base on is Tyler Irving. I just love the way we used him. I'm super, super happy that we kept him on the roster because pretty sure he is classified as a running back, and we're loaded there. But he looked great. I mean, using him on those reverse plays, his speed is just dangerous, and he had 3 carries for 38 yards. I mean, how can you beat that? That's 12 yards a carry. That's a first down every time. And we obviously use him as our kick returner and punt returner. I feel like he's going to be a big part of this offense, and hopefully we keep using him because him in the open field, I feel like is going to be dangerous. Once he breaks one of these, it's game over.
Tyler Irvin is a really special guy because he really hasn't been utilized in any form of offense for his whole career. And then he comes to Green Bay, and they start using him in a lot of different ways that nobody thought he could do. And that changes his whole value as a player from being just a guy that can return the football to a guy that is going to be able to contribute on offense as well. Somebody that they just like Josiah DeGuara, just like all these guys, they don't know what they're going to be doing. They could all run the football. Alan Lazard had, like we just talked about, that long carry the other day on Sunday. I mean, Tyler Irvin got some carries. He's originally a running back, but and now he's moved to receiver, and he's catching the ball, and he's doing all different things on the offensive side of the ball while still making a huge impact in the return game. So that's just another chess piece for Matt LaFleur to use, and he looks good so far.
I saw something on Twitter, and I really wish I can give credit to whoever said this, but they pretty much just said we're running the same offense that we tried to run last year. But the biggest difference is instead of using Geronimo Allison on reverses, we're using Tyler Irving, who's has a has a 4.4 40 time instead of a 4.7. It's just a huge difference, and now we got faster guys. Obviously AJ Dillon should be used more. Josiah DeGuara is going to be used a lot more. I feel like we finally are getting pieces together that are going to fit what Matt LaFleur wants to do with his offense, and it should get better as the season goes. I know this is a huge benchmark game, 43 points and 300 or 500 plus offensive yards it's going to be tough to beat, but still, like, I hope we use this as a formula as the season keeps going.
And another guy that I really thought stood out in terms of just the way he played and the way he looked was Jamal Williams. Nobody really realized how he slimmed down this offseason, and it was talked about during training camp, but nobody got a good look at him, obviously, because we haven't been able to see much of him. But seeing him on the field, he looks noticeably different. He looks thinner than ever. He looks like he gained muscle mass as well. He looks explosive. He looks faster. I mean, this is the guy that is in a contract year. So is Aaron Jones. They just drafted a guy in the second round. This is a guy that, if he plays well, they might consider keeping on the roster next year and extending him to a contract. So the way he put himself in a position to succeed this offseason by becoming a completely different running back, he looks so physically gifted. He just looks completely different. And he looks far and away better than he did last year, and it's probably going to show up on the field as well. He had a nice game against the Vikings. That's a guy that I'm excited to see what he can do this season. We have a monster trio in the backfield with Aaron Jones, and it's really a quartet. It really is, because we've got Tyler Irvin as well. It's Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams, AJ Dillon, and Tyler Irvin, and you could add DeGuara in there. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are just contributing for us in that backfield.
Yeah, we might have the best four if you still consider Tyler Irvin a running back. The best four a group of guys at the running back position in the whole league, honestly. Um, Still waiting to see AJ Dillon more out in the field, but because Jamal Williams is obviously, after watching last week, is our bona fide number 2 running back. He's still at 7 carries, only at 21 yards, but still was involved in the passing game. I mean, he tied Allen Lazard in MVS for the second most receptions on the team with 4, including one that really came to mind is the one where he is kind of like a screen pass towards the left. Didn't really have any blockers, but he made the corner miss and picked up 15 yards and kind of took us within the 10-yard line. So yeah, he's going to be a big part of this offense as long as he, keeps it up. And like you said, he lost some weight this offseason, and he's obviously fighting for his spot because, you never want to see a guy, of your same position get drafted high by your team. So he's, especially in a contract year, he wants to fight for anything he can get pretty much.
Yeah, and I mean, that backfield is, like we just talked about. It's a great backfield for us, and it just takes the pressure off Rodgers in a big way. So I mean, we are going to be able to do a lot of things that we haven't been able to do in years past, in terms of really just giving no tells when it comes to run versus pass, play action versus a inside run. You know, tossing it. Another concept I wanted to talk about was, speaking of tossing it. Matt LaFleur had brought up something that I haven't seen them do, whether it was last year or really from any other team. Is the way that we were kind of giving Jones and Jamal Williams tosses. You would think a toss is most of the time going to be to the outside, and under center. Um, but what we were doing was giving a guy a toss, and then he just cut right inside, like the same way that Matt LaFleur likes to run that inside zone. So it's just another thing that's going to throw guys off on that defensive side of the ball. On a toss, you think, okay, Rodgers is looking to his right, tossing it to Aaron Jones, and then Aaron Jones all of a sudden thinking, the whole defense thinking he's going to run to his right. He just cuts inside and changes the whole thing. So that's a unique thing that Matt LaFleur brings to the table that nobody else in the league is doing, and that other coaches are going to start stealing away from him as the Packers kind of bring this new offense to the NFL and transition what they're doing into the new version of offense in the National Football League.
And I know we're trying to address a lot of the role players, but obviously Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams had two of the craziest games we've seen from both of them in a while. Devontae tying a franchise record with 14 catches, tying Don Hudson's record that's been standing forever. 14 catches, 156 yards, and to go along with that, 2 touchdowns. He pretty much did it all. I mean, he had in that fourth quarter to pretty much put the Vikings away. Aaron hit him on a fly route for 40 yards. That was to put him over 150, and pretty much all game he was just eating up those Vikings corners, out routes, slant routes, across the middle. He was pretty much catching everything. And Aaron Rodgers, like we were saying, he barely missed. I don't remember a single throw that he missed. I mean, like what you talked about earlier, the DeGuara throw, I feel like that was more on DeGuara on that wheel route. I feel like he was looking a little too long at Rodgers, and then when he tried to hit Aaron Jones on the right side of the end zone there, I feel like there just wasn't enough space. Aaron Jones was pretty.
Oh, that was an interesting play. Was that the first drive?
Pretty sure it was the first or second drive. That was early in the game.
Yeah, it was one of the first couple drives, and that was a play that got me excited for what was to come in the game, because And not just that, but Aaron Jones made a beautiful play on the ball. Just couldn't get. I don't even know if he got 1 foot down, but that was just a really nice catch, and it looked really good. And the way we moved down the field on those first couple drives, I was pretty excited with where our offense was and how we could kind of progress throughout the game and the season.
100%. And then, we did start off a little slow. We had to settle for a field goal on our first drive, and then, we got it all the way up to like the 2 yard line, and we failed on fourth down. Unfortunately, Devontae couldn't hold on to the pretty much a touchdown it would have been. But then, we got a safety, and Jair Alexander tackles Kirk Cousins in the end zone, and then, Aaron Rodgers drives back down again, scores a touchdown, I'm pretty sure. And then later in the quarter, when I think it was Alan Lazard's or Devontae's first touchdown. We gave
First one went to Devontae, yeah.
we gave Minnesota the ball back with 50 seconds left. And on second down, Jair intercepted it. And just like the Raiders game last year, when we just capitalized on a turnover towards the end of the half when Aaron hit Jake Kumro. It kind of reminded me exactly of that because I'm pretty sure it was the second play of that drive. Aaron hit MVS for a huge touchdown. That's a huge
Yeah.
swing game. That's a 14-point swing right there, stealing points. That's a right before the half, and the Vikings, unfortunately got 3 points still after that. We left them like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Huge swing in the game.
There was a lot of there was that holding call had a big impact on that, and then they went with that huge Cook run and then caught that ball. I think it was Thielen that made a catch. It might have been BC Johnson, but they did make plays at the end of the half. But just the crazy thing was how fast the game changed. I mean, even during that first after the goal line, after the fourth and goal failure, when Devontae dropped that ball, it was looking bleak. I mean, I think the score was 7-3. We were losing. Vikings had the ball, and then even the first two plays, they ran it on the first play, kind of got out of there, and then the second play, Jair and I'm thinking, okay, so now they're at like the 3 yard line, and that probably kind of uh, that ends the possibility of a safety, which could have come if oh, what happened? They had the false start, and that brought them back to the half-yard line. So then after that, Jair, they ran the ball. Dalvin Cook got about 3 yards, and they're at about the 3 yard line. I thought the safety was kind of excluded from possibility, and then Jair makes this crazy play off schedule, without Mike Pettine's call there. That was just kind of a move that he decided to make, thinking it was a run. It wasn't a run, and he just kind of ran in there and just got Kirk Cousins. Nobody saw it coming. And that just changed the game completely because it went from 7-3 Vikings ball to 7-5 Packers ball. We go and get a touchdown. We go and get the pick and get another touchdown. And all of a sudden, we got this huge lead, 22-10 at halftime. I mean, so the way turnovers and just like we said, defensive plays like that safety, the way those can change the game so fast is remarkable.
No, 100%, man. And I just kind of want to touch on Jair a little bit more. If you guys have been on Twitter or Instagram, you probably saw the stat, but Jair was actually the 9th player ever to record a safety, sack, and interception all in the same game. And he actually did that all in one half. So he had a great game. I know he struggled with Adam Thielen a little bit towards the end, but still, great accomplishment, a great start to the season for Jair because, obviously all of us Packer fans want him to have a Pro Bowl type year, all pro type year. And that's how you start it right there with a game just like that.
And in terms of defense, one of the more surprising things to me was, the starters for the game. I'm looking at the guys on the field, and I see 51, and I'm thinking I'm not even sure exactly who that is quite right away. And then I remember they brought up Chris Barnes from the practice squad, inside linebacker, put him onto the 53, and I'm thinking, wow, they've got him in the starting lineup, an undrafted free agent, and he makes an impact right away. He had a tackle on the first play of the game, I think, and he ended up going on to have 6 tackles in his 15 snaps of football, and 2 of them were tackles for loss. So I mean, he did have a really nice showing. Another rookie that the Packers brought in and made him come in and play, and he played a nice game. So a theme for this game for sure was having rookies come in and show what they've got. and kind of help contribute, help kind of seal the deal on the little things for the Packers, and fill some injury voids and things like that that were huge to the Packers' success against the Vikings.
No, I did the same exact thing when I saw 51 in there. I was definitely confused because normally we have a preseason to like get to know these guys and get to see like who balls out, who's gonna make the roster. But I guess he kind of slid under the radar for me because I was also confused. I was wondering who was that number 51 lining up against right next to Christian Kirksey. But yeah, he played really well in his his short amount of snaps. Like you said, 7 tackles, and you said 15 snaps. That's very impressive.
Yeah, 6 and 15, 2 for loss. So I remember that one that he had that was on a screenplay. He just disrupted everything. It looked like he had a lot of room to run, and Matt LaFleur kind of singled this one out. And Chris Barnes just comes out about 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage, right as I think it was Alexander Madison caught the ball, and he just made this great play on it where he kind of grabbed him by the foot and held him down and brought him down to the ground before he even got a chance to get upfield, and there was nobody behind him, so he was going to run up that field and gain a lot of yards if Chris Barnes didn't make that play. So that was a big one for sure.
One frustrating thing I did see, I felt like the Packers pass rush wasn't as strong as it should have been against a kind of a weak offensive line that Minnesota has. I felt like we saw Kirk Cousins being able to escape the pocket a bunch and break off first down runs. It was very frustrating. I was wondering, like, are we playing Michael Vick here, or are we playing Kirk Cousins? I was honestly confused at times because he had some impressive runs. Not gonna lie, but that's kind of
Yeah.
uncharacteristic of the Packers. Normally, I mean, thinking back to the NFC divisional game, that's like something Russell Wilson would do, but we still were able to get to him, I believe, 5 times. But this time, we're only get him twice. Jair in the end zone there for a safety, and then Zadarius had a huge sack. I believe it was on third down or second down. Um,
Yeah, third down. That
yeah,
was a big one.
but other than that, they were kind of Kirk had a lot of time back there, and when the line created a little hole, he was running, and Kirk Cousins is not known as a running quarterback, so that was definitely one thing I noticed, and definitely one thing that was frustrating. And I hope we can grow on this and hopefully attack the Lions next week because I thought this was a matchup for us going against a weaker offensive line that we could have exploited, but obviously it did not happen.
Yeah, I mean, that was maybe the biggest thing that I could take away from the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, we were leading from pretty much like until the end of from the second quarter until the end of the game. And we put the Vikings in a position where they had to throw the ball a ton and kind of get it out quick and run no huddle and a lot of stuff like that. And they were throwing the ball a ton and making a lot of plays, and so I can understand maybe to the point where the defense was getting tired at times, but then again, our offense was on the field for so long. So there's different reasons to why the pass rush might not have played as good as they should have. I know Preston Smith didn't have a fantastic game. He didn't have a sack. He didn't create a lot of pressure. Zadarius was better. He had a good game. He was our highest graded PFF player this week. So I mean, he had a nice game. He obviously had that sack, and he creates pressure everywhere. So, but we have to do better in the run. Dalvin Cook had a great game running the football, 2 touchdowns, and then Kirk Cousins had two passing touchdowns. Excuse me. So I mean, our defense has to get better, but at the same time, it's a lot of garbage time touchdowns and a lot of soft coverage from Mike Pettin. So we're just gonna have to see how the defense does against the Lions, who are a good offensive football team with a lot of good wide receivers, and they've got a good amount of running backs that can play as well with DeAndre Swift, Kerryon Johnson, and now Adrian Peterson, who had a good game last week. So that's going to be another tough matchup for the offense versus the defense there.
And that's going to bring us to the next thing we're going to talk about. Next week, week 2, we do play the Lions, coming off of a loss to the Chicago Bears where they actually blew a giant lead. They were going into the fourth quarter, they were up 23-6, and they let Mitchell Trubisky throw 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. And Mitch Trubisky led a huge Bears comeback against the Lions to beat them. Lions did have a chance at the very end. I believe it was with 6 seconds left. Matt Stafford had a wide open DeAndre Swift, rookie running back that they just drafted in the second round, dropped a beautiful pass that just hit his hands, bounced off. Pretty much, ended the game. They had one last chance, and They couldn't complete it. So the Bears ended up winning that game 27-23. But huge storyline of that game. The Lions are depleted in the secondary already. Um, we we saw 3 injuries in that secondary. Their rookie Jeff Okudah, veteran Justin Coleman, and also the newly acquired Desmond Trufant that they just got from Atlanta.
Yeah, Justin Coleman actually is on IR. So we're definitely not going to have to play him this week. But Trufant, we don't know, and Okuda, we also don't know. But obviously, if those three guys all can't go, I mean, you're talking about another situation where Rodgers and Devontae are just going to maybe throw. Rodgers might have 700, 800 yards. Devontae might have 600, 700 yards. I mean, it's a situation where these guys are going to just tear up the league, and it's not going to be pretty for the rest of the NFL. So obviously, we're rooting for you know those guys to all be healthy, but at the same time, we want to make sure that our guys have the best chance to win. So whatever happens, happens. But if those guys can't go, Rodgers is going to have another field day.
I mean, we already knew coming into this week that Devontae was going to eat anyways without Darius Slay being there. And he ate anyways, even if Darius Slay was on the team still. But if they're missing their top 3 corners, I'm I'm not even going to rule out the fact if Aaron could throw 300 and maybe Devontae could break the 200 mark for his first time in his career. That'd be something to watch, honestly.
Yeah, I'm not going to rule out the possibility of Aaron throwing for 17 touchdowns this week. That's what I'm thinking if that happens.
No, definitely possible, especially if they're rolling out
20
cornerback 4
yeah,
versus cornerback
26
1.
yeah, 26 catches for Devontae this week, 1,311 yards. That's my prediction.
That's fair enough. I won't won't
That's
hold you
modest.
against it. Yeah, I won't hold you against it. That's definitely going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, but seriously, no, like I do think that that's going to be a big storyline heading into this game. The injuries for both teams, really, because our O line is a bit in shambles right now. It'd be great if Bill Turner could be back. That'd be so good. I mean, just to have another guy that can play and that has played with the 5 guys that we've got. Wagner, I think, is the guy that's probably going to get the start at right tackle, though. My perfect O line right now for us, considering the injuries and everything like that, if we could obviously have Bakhtiari there, keep Elton Jenkins at left guard. Please try not to move him, even though he had a great performance at right tackle, against the Vikings for a little bit, and then he went back to left guard after that other injury. But and then obviously to have Lindsley at center, and then maybe put Bill Turner at right guard, and then have Rick Wagner at right tackle. I think that'd be the ideal situation for Green Bay right now to kind of have that as the group for the rest of the season, and then obviously have guys like Lucas Patrick and John Runyon, behind them.
Yeah, next week, I mean, I don't think the Packers have that big of a challenge either. The Lions were only able to get 1 sack on Mitch Trubisky last week, and I just feel like Trey Flowers, Danny Shelton, Jamie Collins. I feel like that's nothing better than what Minnesota had. And I mean, Minnesota had a Pro Bowler rushing that left side, and David Bakhtiari absolutely eliminated that. So I feel like the offensive line has nothing to worry about this year, even if we don't get Billy Turner back this week. I mean, screw it. Throw John Runyon in there, maybe let him grow a little bit.
Throw Jordan Love in there, right?
Right?
Put him to good use. We put a first round pick on him, right?
For real.
Yeah, no, but I mean, the O line is. I feel like I'm confident in that whole group, especially after the showing we had, and against some of these other teams with lack of a pass rush. I feel like the Lions' pass rush isn't something we have to be scared about. So, especially with Bakhtiari, who looked fantastic on Sunday, and then Wagner put up a great showing after Lane Taylor was out. So, I mean, I'm pretty confident in that group for sure. But like we talked about, if our receivers can match up against some of these really younger guys in the secondary, especially Devontae Adams. We're going to be in for another big day from the Packers. But on the other side of the ball, it's kind of the same situation. The Lions have a ton of good receivers. They've got Marvin Jones. They've got Galladay, who was hurt, like we talked about, but he could be back this week. He was doubtful last week and ended up not playing. This week he's going to be questionable. We'll see if he can play. That's going to be a big one as well. But they've got receivers up and down their roster. Danny Amendola is another guy. They've got Hawkinson at tight end. And they've got who's the other tight end that they've got? from the Steelers when he signed from the
Oh,
Steelers last year. They've got weapons. The point is, I mean, they've got a lot of guys that they can throw out there to catch the football from Matt Stafford, who's a great quarterback. So I think our secondary is going to be challenged in a big way. Hopefully, Jair, like we talked about last season, we have to see Jair and Kevin come out and have consistent games of elite play. I think Jair, this is going to be his year to kind of break out and be a fantastic cornerback in this league and a fantastic football player for the Green Bay Packers. So this is his year to do it. Obviously, a great start with those two big plays last week. He's got to come out now and be a shutdown corner this week against some of those guys for sure.
I definitely see this Lions game going pretty much just like the Minnesota game went. I feel like both offenses are really good. I'm sorry, Detroit's offense is like not stacked, but super solid all around the board. Like you were saying, Adrian Peterson went off for 93 yards in his first game with Detroit. And behind him, they have Kerryon Johnson, who, in my opinion, I thought he was a top 20 running back in the league before, they signed Adrian Peterson. And then
Yeah, that's a forgotten guy. I mean, people forget about him, but he was fantastic for them before he went down with that season-ending injury last year. The year before that, he was a fantastic player for them. So they've got a good group there.
they do. And then they go and draft DeAndre Swift. This was obviously before they signed Adrian Peterson, but they drafted DeAndre Swift, who was a top 3 running back in last year's draft. They drafted him with their second round pick. They're loaded at running back. And then I feel like they got one of the best duos at wide receiver, too. Marvin Jones and the upcomer Kenny Galladay. We haven't gotten to see him this year, but if he's back, that's going to be dangerous. And obviously, TJ Hawkinson, like you said, at tight end, he had a touchdown last week and 56 yards. That's a good offense, and obviously we all know Matthew Stafford is heavily underrated. He's a really good quarterback. He's just never really had a supporting cast around him to make a good playoff run or anything. It's
Yeah, and this is a group that I kind of talked about as the second best team in the division, which caught a lot of people by surprise. But when you look, the takeaway I had from that game versus Chicago was that both these teams are not good football teams. They both looked bad in a lot of ways. But I do have more confidence in the Lions to be a better team because they've got so much talent, and now Matt Stafford is back healthy. I mean, they were competing with teams, all season long with David Blau and other guys playing quarterback. And David Blau is now on the street. I mean, so he's I mean, Matt Stafford's a big impact on what they do there. But Matt Patricia is a coach that a lot of Lions fans are concerned about, and they're not sure that they can even win any meaningful games with him as the head coach. So and he's kind of the reason they lost that football game to the Chicago Bears, and Mitch Trubisky for whatever reason. I mean, that guy, I don't know what happened to that guy, but he was playing absolutely putrid in the first 3 quarters, and then comes out and starts slinging it against these rookie cornerbacks after all those guys got injured. That's probably part of it, but I mean, both those football teams did not look good, and it was kind of the same old for the Lions after they last year were losing one-score games after having big leads early on and losing in comebacks late, and they just did it again against the Bears. So I'm not sure what both these teams, and especially the Lions, I'm not sure what they bring to the table at this point. But the Packers do look good in terms of the division right now.
100%. I was kind of on the border of having Detroit as my number 2, but I do think Minnesota is the better team. I just feel like the defense is better than Minnesota's is, and I feel like Kirk Cousins has a little bit of an edge when it comes to weapons. Just I feel like Devin Cook is way better than anything Detroit has in the running back room. And
Yeah, that's a good point.
Adam Thielen, feel like at this moment, maybe not next year, but at this moment, is better than Kenny Galladay and Marvin Jones. But
Hmm.
obviously, I'm a huge Kenny Galladay fan. He's always torn us up, and I know he's really good. So if he plays, Jair is going to have his hands full. But yeah, for looking at the future of this year, I feel like the Packers they got to keep doing what they're doing. This division, maybe possibly another sweep coming? Question mark. Knock on wood.
I mean, who knows? I mean, the way we're playing and the way these other teams look, it's possible, and it's definitely something that would secure the division for us for sure, and it would give us a good shot. I mean, if you're looking at the landscape of the NFL and the NFC specifically, all these other divisions are really contentious, and there's a lot of teams in those divisions that are perennial playoff teams. The East is the only other team that you'd consider as probably the worst division in that conference. But the South has the Buccaneers, the Saints, the Falcons are always offensively great, and the Panthers, they have some guys going, and it's a bit of a new scheme there, but they played well the other day. And then obviously the West has got the Seahawks, the 49ers, the Cardinals, who beat the defending uh, Super Bowl participants for the NFC, and the 49ers, and the Rams looked good against the Dallas Cowboys, and then in the blah, 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 north south. Oh no, so that's it. Yeah, but in the north, it's the Packers, and then there's a big drop off. So I feel like we're in a good spot to get a lot of wins, and then while these other teams within the divisions beat each other up, the Packers may come out with the stronger record than a lot of these teams, and that's something that people aren't talking about. Everybody talks about how the Packers are going to regress and their record isn't going to be as good, and they got lucky last year. Well, the makeup of the divisions right now puts the Packers in a great spot, because if they can secure 6 divisional wins, and then obviously they're going to go out and win games against other football teams. They could be looking at another 12, 13 win season, while these other teams, you know, specifically in like the NFC South or the West, those teams are going to be beating each other up all season long, and they're going to their records are going to suffer from it.
100%. If we can, like you said, if we can take all 6 games in this division, we just got to worry about these tough interconference games. Like we got the Saints coming up very soon here. We're gonna have to play Tampa Bay. We got to play that whole NFC South. So yeah,
The
just
Saints actually don't have Michael Thomas. They're not going to have him. It looks like they say that he's got a high ankle injury, and he's going to be out for several weeks. So I mean, if that's true, and he actually will not play against the Packers in 12 days from this recording, that is absolutely enormous for the Packers' chances to win that football game.
and after week 1, scoring the most points out of anybody in the NFL. I mean, that's a great start. And I felt like our offense was just running so much more smoothly than it was in 2019. And in 2019, we obviously went 13-3, made the NFC Championship game. So as far as it goes to season projections for us, I feel like if we're, like I said earlier, if we're able to sweep the North and just at least handle 2 or 3 teams out of the NFC South that we have to play, and another team we play down the line right in the middle of the season is the 49ers. If we can at least steal one win between the Niners and the Saints, I'd be very confident that we can finally get over that hump of the NFC Championship game, because that's been killing me for years now. Is this the year, Bron? Is this the year? I know it's way too early, but still, it's looking good after 1 week.
Let's get into it. Let's get into it. All right. Are we going to win the Super Bowl? The answer is yes, we're going to win the Super Bowl. Absolutely. No, I don't know. I hope so. I mean, goodness gracious. We're running out of time here.
Literally,
We're running out of time. We're running out of years. They've just drafted a quarterback. I mean, goodness gracious, we are running out of time. Rodgers, he's got 4 years left on this current deal. Who knows what's going to happen? Obviously, we've talked about this a ton, but we hope obviously he's going to be able to stay here for as long as he wants. Uh, it's nice to have a good backup quarterback. I don't know if the Packers front office is going to push Jordan Love up the ladder, by trading Aaron. I hope not. I don't know what's going to happen with that. Brian Gutekunst kind of addressed it a little bit in an interview, a Q&A with Pete Doherty, with Packers News. He asked him about Rodgers' deal, which has a lot of dead cap right now and then next year, but then the year after that, the dead cap goes down to the point where they could move on from him. But there's still money. I mean, that's $17 million in that third year that's on the table. That would be dead cap if they did move on from him. So that is an issue. I mean, that's a lot of money, 17 million that they cannot spend, and that's in the third year of the deal, and third year remaining. And so when they talk about to Brian Gutekunst, is that an issue for Rodgers' availability for the rest of his career being in Green Bay? And Brian Gutekunst said that's not an issue. His contract isn't an issue for his long term uh, stay in Green Bay. So, I mean, that's encouraging. But then at the same time, that's kind of something he has to say. So, but I'm encouraged by that. But I mean, we don't have much time left for Rodgers to have the supporting cast, plus him still being at the prime level of his game, which he is, as we saw on Sunday. So I just hope this is the year for us. And obviously, against the Vikings on Sunday was very encouraging.
I feel really guilty talking about Super Bowl aspirations after one game.
I know it's so weird because we don't know. Like, what if? I mean, there's a lot of what if we, what if we don't play well next week? Then it's just like, okay, now we don't know what we are.
Like, are Bears fans talking about Super Bowl aspirations after that, after their week one win? I don't know, but I just felt like a little different. I don't know. I just felt really good after that week.
That just was. It's like something. I think everybody just hasn't seen us play that well on offense in so long. It was something that really just excites you and makes you want to start talking about our aspirations for the playoffs and things like that. So, I mean, it was an encouraging win, and Rodgers looked as good as he's looked in years, and it was exciting. That's all I could say about it.
All right, Bron, let's not get way too ahead of ourselves here. I know we're getting a little excited after that giant win in week one, but let's go back to the Lions game that we got next week. Do we have any closing remarks or any, final thoughts about the game or any predictions, anything for me?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a good game. One thing that we didn't touch on yet is the fact that the Lions were beating us until literally when there was 0 seconds on the clock in both of the football games that we played against them last year, both ending with field goals by Mason Crosby to win the game. Um, so that's something that we have to be concerned about because this is a team that was beating us for 60 minutes in one game and then 60 minutes in another game until the last second. And now they've got their starting quarterback back. So that is going to be interesting. I mean, does this team just have our number? And now they're going to have their quarterback, or is it something now we're a better football team? Maybe they're a little worse. The head coaching situation is in flux. Maybe those are the things that can kind of give us that win, but I'm not sure. I mean, this is going to be an interesting game. I'd like to think we come out and win after a great game against the Vikings last week, but this Lions team, they're a fighting football team. So I'm not sure exactly.
No, they are, and I bet they're going to come out pissed off after blowing a giant lead to the Bears in week one.
That's got to be, yeah, that was devastating.
They should have won that game. I mean, even after blowing the lead, like I said, DeAndre Swift had an easy touchdown. It would have been a walk-off with 6 seconds left. They would have won the game. But now they're 0-1, and now they got to come to probably the hardest team in the division. Probably, I should say, the absolute hardest team in the division. And now they got to try to beat the Packers, who just scored 43 points against the Vikings. That's not going to be easy for them. It was a good point that you brought up last year. Like we led 0 seconds against the Lions in both games, and still came out with victories in both. Doubt that'll happen again. I feel like this year, as far as we saw last week, I know it's way too early to be just going to conclusions and everything, but our offense looks so much smoother than it did last year. I feel like we're gonna hopefully catch a rhythm and just send the Lions home 0-2. Hopefully.
Yeah, I think efficiency is the key this week because we're going to have to move the ball. We're back at home for the first time this season. Football's back. It feels great to have football back, and we're back at Lambeau. No fans for the first 2 home games yet, but I know that we're going to have a big energy about us in terms of the team. And I think that that's going to help us, win this football game. And I think we're going to have to be, once again, more efficient on offense, catch guys offside like we did on Sunday against the Vikings with Aaron Rodgers' hard count. There's a lot of different things that we've got to do to kind of come out with a win here, but I think the one thing is be efficient on offense once again, and that's something we weren't doing as much last season, and that contributed to the fact that we did not beat the Lions soundly. in either of those games. So I think if we can do better on offense like we did on Sunday, we should be in a good spot.
Any score predictions from you, Brian?
Yeah, I'm going to go with a score of 38-17. I think we're going to come out and play a really good game on offense, not score as much as against the Vikings. I think it'll be a bit of a closer game, but still a blowout. I think Rodgers is going to have another one of those days against a secondary that's banged up. Young guys back there, cornerback number 4, 5, and 6 playing, things like that, I think are going to contribute to the Packers' victory. I suspect that our pass rush will be better, and that obviously helps. Just it changes the defensive game for us and gives us better chances to win. Gives Aaron Rodgers more opportunities, and I think just our running game is going to be better as well. Jones had a nice game, but he's obviously been better. He's had games where he's ran for 4 touchdowns, 100-yard games, and I think he'll get back to that this week too. So we could see more running, depending on who's in at corner for the Lions. But I do think that Rodgers is going to have another fantastic game. Devontae Adams as well. Lazard, MVS will both have their share of targets and catches. And I think Aaron Jones is going to have a nice game. And I'm going to go with 38-17.
Yeah, Brian, I agree with you there. I definitely see a big blowout potential here. I do see this game kind of going along the lines of the Minnesota game last week. I just don't think our defense will play, as poorly as we did against Minnesota. I don't think we played poorly. I just think we had the safety and the Jair interception turnover definitely helped a lot. But still, Minnesota put up 34 points, and our offense was kind of just run out the score, and Minnesota could never catch us. I don't see that being a problem against the Lions. I feel like the Lions might cap out at like 21, 24 points, and I feel like we're gonna have maybe another 40 bomb. Screw it. I mean, like you were saying earlier, you were thinking Aaron was gonna go for 800 and Devontae for 7.
Who knows, man?
Might as well keep that energy. I'm saying 44-21 Packers.
Gosh, I just hope we don't blow it this week and go lose and score 10 points or something.
If this was
Man,
2019, I would not rule that out. But this is
we
20.
don't know, man. Yeah, well, then again, we never scored this many points last year. We never were this efficient. Rodgers rarely had a game with 4 touchdowns, let alone 300, and he had 364 yards. I mean, this was a different game from Aaron. The whole offense was spectacular. I do think this is something that will be a permanent change to the way we go about playing the game of football, and I think it's going to make us a better football team.
Like, I want that 2014 mentality back. Like, you remember, I'm pretty sure we dropped 50 in 3 games in 2014, and we just demolished teams. I want that mentality.
Yeah. Yeah, man. We just gotta. Hopefully that comes too. Maybe we'll be able to score more points. I mean, we didn't talk about it much, but MVS had those 2 drops, and there were guys dropping footballs. Devontae had that drop on 4th and goal. Rodgers could have come out with 7 touchdowns in that game. 450 yards, 500 yards. I mean, if all and that's not the way the NFL works. Not every throw is going to be caught and not this and that. But I mean, there was potential for a lot more statistical yardage and touchdowns for Rodgers and those receivers. And I mean, if we can execute at even a higher level as we progress throughout the season, still kind of learning this offense in terms of just getting comfortable and getting more efficient at the start of this second year. I mean, that's definitely a possibility to score even more points.
Quick question before we end this thing. Do you think Aaron's playing this well because he's pissed off over the Jordan Love pick, or do you think it's just, Aaron's channeling his former self?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think I know this is kind of a cop out of an answer, but I think it's a combination of a lot of things. The fact that they drafted a quarterback is part of it. But he's been such a great teammate. The underrated part of Aaron, actually, really, people mistake Aaron Rodgers for a mean guy, a bad teammate, a horrible person. All this for some reason, for over his whole career, he's been accused of just being a horrible person, an evil human being. I never understood it. You ever listen to this guy talk? Nobody listens to him talk. Everybody just reads these articles and listens to talking heads in the media. But this guy is one of the most gracious human beings on the planet. He fights for his home state of California when they're going through wildfires. He fights for them. Yeah, I mean, he's great with kids at the games. If you ever see videos and pictures of him playing with kids at the game, I mean, he's a great teammate. If you ever hear some of the things that he says on the mic'd up, which he rarely does now, his interviews, he's just a great guy. He's a funny person. He's intellectual. He's a genius on and off the field. He's a super nice guy. I mean, he's just a great teammate to his teammates. He wants to meet all of them. He wants to learn all of them, learn their quirks. These younger guys, he wants to learn about them and get to know them and know what makes them tick so he can connect with them and help them have a better connection on the field. I mean, I can't say enough about this guy considering what the media portrays him as. And that's because, just the haters, the critics, the fans that aren't real fans that just hate on a guy because he's such a good football player that they want to take everything else away from him. But he is an excellent teammate, and Jordan Love is the prime example of that because he has been an excellent mentor to him. He's been a great friend to him, and Jordan Love said as much. And he's always been that way with his quarterbacks and his backups. So, I mean, I think he has a great attitude uh, pretty much every year, but specifically this year, he's been an excellent guy in the meeting room, and he's been happier. They say he's been excited about this year. He's just really soaking it all in as his career winds down, and he's only got so many years left. So I do think that's a big part of it. But he looks physically better. He looks like he's been lifting weights a bit more, and he said as much as well. So his lower half looks stronger and more explosive, and that's been contributing to a lot of his bigger plays that we saw in week one. And then the other thing is just what was the other thing I had in mind? Dang it! Give me a second. Give me a second. Um, oh, the thing he said about the film. Okay. And the other thing is the film that he looked back on and he saw something in the film from 2010 in practice that he was doing mechanically and he made a switch and since he made that switch he's kind of clicked and something clicked and he just looks like a different quarterback and everybody's saying that and we saw it on Sunday. So sorry to go on a huge Aaron Rodgers rant here, but I feel like I just had to say that about this guy. And I think that's a big reason as to why he is playing it the way he's playing right now.
No, man, he definitely deserves a rant from you, 100%. He's been hated by the media pretty much his whole career, even dating back when he got drafted as Brett Favre's successor. I mean, he's really gotten no love from anywhere. I mean, even when he became the starter, even people in Green Bay hated the decision that Brett Favre was going to be, no longer the Packers starting quarterback, and we were 1 year removed from the NFC Championship game, and we're going with a new guy. That's why I respect Aaron so much because he lived through that. Now he's on the other side now with Jordan Love being drafted and him possibly you know uh, being possibly replaced in the next couple of years. I respect it so much, and I know the media hates him so much because he won a Super Bowl in his third year starting and a couple MVPs right away, and he kind of threatened the media darling Tom Brady as the best quarterback in the league, and I know the media hates that. So, and I respect it 100%. And he just, he stays calm. He stays really nice. He stays loyal. I mean, he's just an all around great guy. And, nobody will ever see that because social media is just always on his ass just every single day.
Yeah. All right. Let's just wrap it up here and this is going to be a great game against the Lions, hopefully, and football's back like we talked about, and looking forward to Sunday. Stay tuned for updates on both of our pages for injuries and things like that. But Mason, unless you have anything else to say.
Nah, man, I'm just excited for us to start 2-0.
Yeah, that's right. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Today in Titletown Packers podcast. We'll see you next week. Looking forward to a good game. And go Pack Go.